Hello friends, so here we will be talking about the next topic it is the last lecture for this chapter, and here we'll be talking about the disorders which are related to bones and muscles, particularly here disease which is related to the skeletal system. We'll be talking about this. Some list of disorders which we are going to study superficially, not in much detail, is tetany, that is deficiency of calcium causing degeneration of muscles, and it causes the defects of muscles causing spasmic contraction. So the first one we are going to talk about is tetany. The second one is osteoporosis. The word is telling you the answer. Osteo, that means bones, and porosis means getting porous. The next, an autoimmune disease we'll be talking about, that is Myasthenia Gravis. We'll see in detail. It is all which is related to the neuromuscular junction. Then next, we'll just see the difference between what is muscular dystrophy and muscular atrophy. Remember that dystrophy is all about the genetic conditions. So if there is a defect in the genes and that results into the degeneration of muscles, we call it as muscular dystrophy. Whereas muscular atrophy can be induced. That is because of, like, might be a person, if he or she is not taking a proper diet, that can also cause degeneration disease of muscles, and we call it as muscular atrophy. You can consider that muscular dystrophy is a kind of muscular atrophy, because atrophy is something what muscles degenerate. It is not sure that it is because of genetics. So muscular atrophy is not a genetic conditions, whereas muscular dystrophy is because of the genetic conditions or genetic abnormalities. Then further we will talk about the other disease, that is arthritis. And in arthritis, we know what is the meaning of arthros, that means joints, and arthritis, that means swelling of joints, or you can say it is known as the inflammation of joints. In this, we will study about three different kinds of arthritis, that is osteoarthritis, gouty arthritis, that is gouts, and rheumatoid arthritis. So these three arthritis we are going to study. Sometimes there can be swelling of joints because of viral and bacterial infections also. So that can be called as viral, or you can call it as an infectious arthritis. That is because of the conditions prevailing in our body, that is caused by the virus and the bacterial infections. Here we talk about the first is tetany. Now don't get confused between tetany and tetanus. Tetanus is ideally, in our language we call it as dhanur, which is something a different thing from tetany. That tetanus is caused by a bacteria living in a soil called, it is known as Clostridium tetani, or Clostridium tetani causes a condition whenever there is an injury, and if suppose that bacteria enters into the blood, it causes tetanus. That is quite different from tetany. Tetany is, you can say, uncontrolled twitching. अनकंट्रोल ट्विचिंग का मतलब होता है कि मसल्स के अंदर मसल्स खींच जाना. ट्विचिंग का मतलब मसल्स खींच जाना. That is because of ultimately calcium deficiency into the body fluid. That is, if there is less calcium in the body, it causes spasmic muscle contraction, rapid muscle contraction, spasmic, that is twitching muscle contraction, because there is a deficiency of calcium in the body. So that is particularly here we call it as tetany. The next we are going to talk about is osteoporosis. As I told you that it includes two words, osteo, that means bones, and porosis, that means getting hollow or getting porous. So here we will mainly tell that the bone which is osteoporotic, you can see over here this bone is osteoporotic, right? You can see this over here, that the bones has become what you can say more porous as compared to the normal bones, right? Here you can clearly see in this lower picture that the holes which are present in the osteoporotic bone are quite large, so its density decreases. Okay, the bone's density decreases. Why is it decreasing? Because the mineral which should be present, particularly calcium and phosphorus, that makes our bone, decreases over here, right? So because of that, the whatever density of bones is there, that keeps on degenerating, and that results into the bone resorption, that is weakening of the bones, right? It is more common in women because of we can say because of the conditions prevailing like menopause or menstruation. So it is more common in women as compared to the men. Due to decreased density, such bones becomes more susceptible to fractures. Means what? They are more prone to breakage. Such bones get broken easily. So it is more prone or susceptible to the fractures. So what can be done? The best thing that can be done is that the patient who is suffering from osteoporosis should be given calcium rich supplements, and including that vitamin D is recommended. So this is about osteoporosis. The next disease is Myasthenia gravis. Now let me tell you that this is an autoimmune disease. Now what do you mean by autoimmune disease? Autoimmune disease is something which is related to immunity. Now let me tell you first of all what is meant by immunity. We all know that immunity is something, a power of body to fight against any kind of disease. राइट अगर कोई बॉडी बीमार पड़ी है तो बॉडी खुद पहले तो वायरसेस और बैक्टीरिया से लड़ती है, लेकिन अगर यही बॉडी का पावर बॉडी के अगेंस्ट हो जाए और बैक्टीरिया की बजाय बॉडी से ही झगड़ने लग जाए या बॉडी के ऊपर अटैक कर दे, तो उस कंडीशन को हम कहते हैं ऑटो इम्यून डिसीज. मतलब क्या? इट्स आवर इम्यूनिटी इज a risk, or our immunity is creating a problem for our own body. That condition is known as autoimmune disease. And let me tell you that myasthenia is incurable. That means it is chronic disease. There is no cure to this disease. Now here the antibodies that is generally formed in our body, in particular किसी भी infection के against हमारे body के अंदर antibodies बनती है, तो वो यहाँ पे affect कर जाती है. It affects the motor end plate, or you can say neuromuscular junction, जो हमने muscle contraction में पढ़ा था. It causes drooping eyelids, generally fatigue. Fatigue means getting tired, and difficulty or inability to swallow. To a certain extent, you can say that it results into the paralytic conditions, and on further progression, it leads to the death of a patient even. Now you can see that this is a neuromuscular junction of a normal person, right? Whereas this is a neuromuscular junction of a person suffering from myasthenia gravis. Now what you can see is, you can see that this acetylcholine can easily bind to this receptor if the person is normal. But over here, to this receptors, you can see that there is already some structures over here. You can see this blue colored structure binded to the what we can say the nicotinic receptors, that is a post junctions. So these acetylcholine cannot bind this receptor because these receptors are already occupied by the body. Antibodies ने already उसकी जगह ले ली है, इस वजह से acetylcholine उसको bind नहीं कर पाएगा, और जो मैसेज एक्चुअली मसल्स को मिलना चाहिए वो नहीं मिलता, उस वजह से वो पैरालिटिक हो जाता है. Now you can see how can we predict that a person is suffering from a myasthenia gravis. Now if you see this picture, this lady, the first pic is given as without myasthenia gravis, a total healthy face. But when you talk about the person suffering from myasthenia gravis, here you can see that drooping eyelids, as well as there is a facial deformation you can see over here. So somewhat you can say drooping lips, drooping eyelids, and facial deformation only on one side of the body, right? So this is a condition, that's what you call it as myasthenia gravis, and let me tell you, it is incurable. That means one cannot cure it. जहाँ पे भी हम word use करते हैं chronic, उसका मतलब होता है incurable. Next, muscular dystrophy. As I told you previously when I just started this topic, that muscular dystrophy is a genetic disease, whereas atrophy is not a genetic disease. इसमें स्पाइनल नर्व्स डीजनरेट होती है और उसकी वजह से मसल्स को वो कंट्रोल नहीं कर पाती, तो वो मसल्स वीक हो जाते हैं, पैरालिटिक हो जाते हैं। जबकि यहाँ पे कैसा है, ये जेनेटिक डिसीज है। जब भी डिस्ट्रॉफी आए तो रिमेंबर दैट इट इज अ जेनेटिक डिसीज विच कॉजेज डिटोरिएशन ऑफ मसल्स, उसकी वजह से मसल्स वीक हो जाते हैं एंड मसल्स की जो मूवमेंट होती है वो हिंडर हो जाती है। दिस इज पर्टिकुलरली सीन एज अ पर्सन गेट्स ओल्ड। नेक्स्ट is very important topic and it is all about arthritis. Now in arthritis we'll talk about the different cases where there is inflammation of joints are seen. So inflammation, that is swelling of joints, is seen in different cases. It can be, as I told you previously, infectious arthritis also, where there is infection of viruses and bacteria. Now there are basically three different kinds of arthritis, that is rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis and gouty arthritis. So let us start with the first, that is rheumatoid arthritis. As I told you that it is incurable, that means it is a chronic one. It is autoimmune disease. Again, immunity is going against us. Now here you can see that the cartilage that is covering the bone's cap gets degenerated, right? So first thing is affected over here. This gets degenerated. Secondly, whatever synovial capsule is present. Now this is the synovial capsule which is painted pink colored over here. It also gets inflamed. That means it is getting swelled up. So there is excessive secretion of synovial fluid inside that, and that results into formation of some granules, and these granules are known as pannus or pannus. Okay, so it forms granules called pannus, and that pannus, whenever there is a bone movement, let's say this and this bone is moving, right? So this pannus will create, because there are granules like structure, this pannus will create a friction between these two bones, resulting into the erosion of a bone. So the calcium is withdrawn from the bones. Ultimately it causes weakening of joints and the person gets quite what we can say deformed joints and a painful joints, and the ability to cause movement is even hindered. So again I repeat, it is autoimmune disease, inflammation of synovial membrane or capsule, more synovial fluid, pannus, that is granules are formed, and painful and inflamed joints. The next is osteoarthritis. Now osteo that means bones, arthritis. Here there is no granule formation or no such things. Here it is the degeneration of cartilage cap of bones. Now you can see over here in the diagram that this is a healthy normal joints, whereas this is a joint in which its cartilaginous cap is degenerated. You can see degeneration is seen over here. So whenever there is a movement between these two bones, it causes lots of friction because there is no cartilaginous cap present in between, and that again causes the degeneration of the joints, painful and inflamed joints. Now what causes this? This is generally because of old age. Again, female is more affected, overweight, obesity. If there is some kind of knee injury, that also can cause this conditions. Repetitive use of bones or joints, like suppose somebody is engaged in a condition which rules excessive running and jumping in that kind of condition. So even that such conditions or repetitive use of joints can also cause conditions like osteoarthritis. Then even if there is a muscle weakness, that can also cause the osteoarthritis. Further, thyroid hormones imbalances, like there are two thyroid hormones, that is TCT, and the other is parathyroid hormone, that is PTH. So if they get imbalanced, it causes osteoarthritis. Sex hormones imbalances, you can say that it can be the cause called Menopause can also cause osteoarthritis, or you can say that same. This all condition can be implied or can be applied to osteoporosis also, osteoarthritis as well as osteoporosis. So it can be because of vitamin D and calcium deficient diet, and when there is a sex hormonal imbalance, particularly in women during menopause, that can also cause osteoarthritis. Now here in the picture you can see that the first one is a healthy joint, the second one in which you can see the caps have degenerated. So this is osteoarthritis, whereas here there is an inflammation of synovial membrane. Blood accumulation has taken place over there. So that is rheumatoid arthritis. The next is gouty arthritis. In this condition, there is a deposition of uric acid crystals. Let me tell you that here in the blood, uric acid increases and that gets accumulated in the joints. Particularly you can see that here legs के जो phalanges होते हैं उसके बीच में fingers की जो phalanges होती है, तो वहाँ पे क्या हो जाता है कि uric acid crystals get accumulated, जिसकी वजह से swelling आ जाता है. You can see here clearly swelling is shown. Even the like fingers get deformed and it is again a painful condition. So in gouts or gouty arthritis, uric acid is the one which plays a vital role. So the crystal gets deposited over there.